I'm talking with Annie Hart about her new album, Weight of a Wave. But I wanted to save this next part of the discussion till kind of the end of this episode. I know not everybody is who listening has maybe seen the TV series Twin Peaks, so I'm definitely going to keep this light on the spoilers. I can't imagine we're going to bring up any major plot points, but I wanted to give a warning here just in case if anybody's like maybe thinking about watching the show, plug your ears. But Twin Peaks was a TV series that ran for 2 seasons in the early '90s on ABC. Showtime revived it in 2017. Some people call it season three. Some people call it the return. I'm probably going to refer to it as the return, just if anyone's like, what is Patrick talking about here? But Annie and her bandmates and Au revoir Simone appeared and performed on the legendary iconic Roadhouse stage, aka the Bang Bang Bar. And also, for anyone who may not know, Twin Peaks was created by David Lynch and Mark Frost. It's a show filled with secrets and not a lot of answers, as they like to keep that mystery alive, and rightfully so. So I'm going to see what answers I can get from Annie today. So can you tell me a little bit about how your relationship with David Lynch was formed? I've read a few interviews, and I'm still very curious how this happened, because it looks like it happened probably about 10 years before, or I know it was filmed maybe a little bit before it actually aired, but can you tell me a little bit about how that relationship formed?
Yeah, when we released Bird of Music, that came out what in 2005 or 2006. Um, uh, we kept being offered to do these events at Barnes and Noble, and I come from a very punk rock, anti-capitalist background,
Mm-hmm.
and I would always and I used to work in independent bookstores, so I was always like, no, screw Barnes and Noble. They're just trying to throw the indie people out of business. We're never doing this. And I was very adamant and maybe a little headstrong in that event. But then
Sure.
they came back and they said, hey, can you do this event with David Lynch? And we were like, our manager was like, Annie, come on, pull yourself together. So we said, all right, fine, David Lynch will do it.
And this was at
Um,
a Barnes and Noble.
This is at Barnes and Noble in Union
Okay.
Square.
Oh
Um,
wow.
yeah, it was a madhouse because obviously I had known David Lynch. He's a household name, and I had enjoyed his movies, but I was not like a hugely into his back catalog. And I didn't realize what a cult personality he is. That place was mobbed. There were people lined up around the block. I had friends like friends who well, more like acquaintances who were in very famous bands who were like calling us manically, can we please come? Can you get us in on the list? I was like, they're calling me? Like, what's going on? So that was my first kind of taste of the David Lynch sphere, if you want to call it
Mm-hmm.
that. Um, and he had his book coming out, Catching the Big Fish. So he was on a
Yeah.
book reading tour. So there was a moderator, and then they would interview David. We would play a song. They'd interview us, kind of like this little back and forth kind of thing, kind of like what I'm doing with Fred on stage, but without the comedy, or the moderator. But so at the end of the event, uh, it was absolutely crazy, and they kind of like whisked David out of there, and his kind of like the head person of his entourage came up to us and said, David really loves your band. And I was like, okay, cool. We like David too. Great guy. And he's like, no, David really loves your band. And we were like, okay, that's wonderful. But not really understanding what that meant. So it ended up that he like got married a year later, and he walked down the aisle to a few of our songs. He like
Wow.
really loved our band so
He
much.
loved you.
So
Like they weren't lying.
you are lying.
He
He came to
loves
see
your
us
band.
play. He had this art exhibit, an opening at I think it was the Fondation Cartier in Paris, and they did this retrospective, and they recreated a theater that he designed, and he chose us to play on the opening night. So then we flew to Paris for that. We did the performance, and then after the performance, we're on the roof of the museum. We're drinking champagne. The Eiffel Tower is lighting up. Julie Cruz comes in and starts telling us like stories of recording with David, and she's so captivating, and we just
Mhm.
really enjoyed it. And so we like hung out with him every time we went to LA and stayed in touch. I mean, he's an absolutely wonderful person, just so open-minded and so calm and generous. And you know hanging out with him, you would never, it's hard to reconcile, the depths of the evil nature of humanity that's in his art versus what he um presents as in his regular everyday life, which I think is really testament to like his meditation practice and his ability to kind of like tap into all sides of himself. Yeah, I don't know.
Mhm.
He's just an amazing guy. And he went around on the rest of that book tour telling everybody to listen to us. And we were his favorite band, and everybody ought to listen to us. And he would very slowly and carefully pronounce our name. I don't know if you've seen any of the video clips, but they're pretty
Yeah.
funny.
Au revoir, Simone.
But that was definitely the turning point of our career, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. If David Lynch becomes a fan, you've got it made. That's just, I mean, I can't even imagine. So, Twin Peaks, were you a fan of Twin Peaks? Did you see Twin Peaks before uh, the return happened?
Yeah, so I was just a little bit too young to catch it when it came out. I wasn't allowed to watch it. I would like try to like sneak down the stairs and like peek in when my brothers were watching it, but
Yeah.
I'm glad my parents didn't let me watch it, honestly. I think
Yeah.
that was a strong move on their part.
Probably.
So
Yeah.
but after we kind of became friends with David, we went on this binge watching thing and in the van, and this was in the days of the early iPhones. So Heather had an iPhone. I didn't even have it. I think I had like a brick at the time, but it had a tiny little screen, and we had a headphone splitter, and the three of us would be in the back seat just absorbing. We watched all of season one of Twin Peaks, part of season two. We watched Mulholland Drive. We saw, I can't remember. We saw like three or four of his films, and then the whole season on one tour in Europe, just in the back of the
Wow.
van. So we were watching it on a screen
Which I'm sure he'd
so
love.
tiny,
Yeah.
clustered together, which is good because he gets really scared. So we could like hold each other and scream and like hold hands.
That's a great
Um,
visual.
it was pretty cool. So that was my first experience with the first season.
That's really cool. So then, of course, at some point you find out that this revival of Twin Peaks is happening. I don't know what you found out first, that it was happening or that you were going to be in it, or did you even know it
That
was
we were
going to be
in it.
Twin Peaks when you got like a call? Because I know everything was just
Yeah,
very secretive.
we got an email like to the three of us. Do you want to be in the David's reviving Twin Peaks? Do you want to perform? Do you want to be in it? And I was on the subway with a friend of mine, and I started screaming on the subway.
I
And then I
imagine.
told him immediately, "Oh my God, David Lynch is reviving Twin Peaks because he wants us to be on it." And then I read the next paragraph. Under no circumstances are you
Can you
allowed to
tell
tell
anybody?
anybody.
Yep. Got to keep
So
reading.
that
It's
old
very
subway
important.
car too. Thankfully, I was with a very straight-laced friend who was very trustworthy. So
Yeah, that's
he
good.
didn't tell anybody.
Yeah, don't know about everybody else though on that
Yeah,
on that train car.
exactly. Yeah, we flew out there and it was pretty secretive.
Yeah,
We weren't allowed to tell anybody why we were in LA. We were like, oh, we're visiting friends
sure. Yeah,
as
just
a
out here.
group.
Yep, as a whole group, just coming to hang out. Um, I've heard in other artist interviews that all the performances were filmed on the same day.
Well, over two
Um,
days, yeah.
2 days, okay. Yeah, I knew. I mean, it seemed like it was probably just a very tight time period, but I think that's one of the coolest things. Like, boy, would I have loved to have been an extra to have seen like all of that.
I know, and can
Um,
you believe it? We saw the Chromatics, and we saw another band from Chicago, those sweet boys who kind of sounded like the Everly Brothers.
oh yeah, the
I can
Cactus
remember their name.
Blossoms.
The Tactics Blossoms, they were
Yeah,
so good. But we hung around for like 3 or 4 hours. Um, and then we're like, oh, it's time to leave. But we had no idea who else was playing because everything was so secretive. And then I was like, what? Why didn't I stay all day? I miss Trent Reznor. Like, what is wrong
yeah,
with me?
that's
I miss Julie
crazy.
Cruz performing. Like,
Yeah, I can't
I
even
don't know.
imagine. That's just like a dream. I
Such a
wish
bummer.
that. I mean, obviously, we unfortunately lost Julie Cruz. A couple years back.
Yeah,
But
she's amazing.
what I would give for just a uh, festival of these exact bands just on a day, I would, in a Roadhouse replica setting.
Yeah.
I would pay good money, David Lynch, if you're listening. I would pay good money for the Bang Bang Bar Festival. So you and your bandmates in Au revoir Simone, Erica and Heather, you guys were special because you got to appear in two different episodes. And one I thought was actually pretty cool because it came out of a scene starring Sky Ferreira,
Oh,
um,
yeah.
which, oh yeah, I know. That was one of those two where I was like so excited to see Sky Ferreira, and you guys came back, and I was like, "What?" I was like, "They're playing again? It is happening again."
Haha.
Basically,
We're the
I'm
favorite.
assuming, yeah, I'm assuming that you didn't that the Sky Ferreira scene was filmed separately. It seemed that was,
Definitely,
yeah, yeah,
definitely.
yeah, because I can't remember some of them where they intertwined some of those scenes. They seemed like they might have reacted to like music starting or something, but it clearly, it wasn't happening at the same time. So the two songs that you played were Lark and A Violent Yet Flammable World. Both appeared on your second album, The Bird of Music. I was curious because you had released a lot more music between then and uh, the filming of Twin Peaks. Was the song choices a David Lynch decision?
Yes, definitely. They were his choice. Those were his. He had us film his three favorite songs, but two of them made the cut. Which is funny because I mean, I feel like, yeah, I feel like some of our later music, if you objectively look at it, seem much more Lynchian in a way, just darker and kind of more
Mm-hmm.
minimal. But you know, when it's not just him, but like when you hear music at a specific time in your life, it connects with you and you can't, there's no explaining it. So I
Yeah,
guess those are just the songs that connected with him, that
sure.
resonated with him pretty deeply.
I get that. And I felt this way about a lot of the song choices, especially watching with captions and seeing like song lyrics. But there was even just lyrics from A Violent Yet Flammable World, where it speaks of dreams, and dreams are very prominent in Twin Peaks. And then in Lark, there's a specific line where it says, point you to a better time, a better place to be, which kind of reminds me of some things that happen in the show, pointing to a different time, maybe a
Mm.
better, I don't know, but there were definitely just little things in all of the songs which made me want, because obviously you guys wrote those songs long before you appeared, so there's no way it was, intentional, but that could also have been something, who knows. They were his favorite songs, and maybe it was a happy accident. There were some lyrical connections. To tie some things back to your new record, Weight of a Wave, I noticed you thanked Dean Hurley in the thank you section, who was a big role in the sound of Twin Peaks. Did he work any on this record, or just a friend?
He's a friend. I love Dean. He's such a good guy. Um, so talented musically as well. He mastered Nothing Makes Me Happy Anymore. So announced this album, I think in November of last year, and people started pre-ordering it. I basically announced it because I couldn't afford to press the vinyl without
Yeah,
pre-orders. So I announced it just to kind of get a gauge of how many people would be pre-ordering vinyl. And I should press it. So to do that, I sent everybody Nothing Makes Me Happy Anymore, and I had Dean master it.
that's
Yeah.
cool. Did you know Dean before Twin Peaks?
Oh yeah, he's been like David's head assistant for years. We met in Paris and he came to that festival that I told you that we were playing for David's art opening, and we famously were drinking and woke up him and his wife from their cozy hotel room while they were sleeping.
Wow.
And just from being noisy in the hallway.
Yep.
But dude, he's so like sardonic, and I don't know, I just really love his energy. He still teases me about that to this day, but he's a wonderful guy. And whenever we would go visit David in LA, Dean would be there and hanging out and kind of helping, showing us the studio and all the cool music instruments and stuff.
That's really cool. Well, Twin Peaks definitely, means a ton to me. It's, some of the best TV art, however, movie, if you want to call a lot of people call the last season a movie, just a never ending movie. It's definitely one of my favorite things I've seen. And the Roadhouse performances, as I've mentioned, were some of my favorite parts, just as a music fan. And just, I discovered a lot of great music just through the show. I want to play a song that you guys performed, and I could not decide, so I think I'm going to play them both. I even listened to them both this morning, and I was just like, I'm just going to play them both. So these are the two songs that aired in part 4 and in part 9 of The Return. We're first going to play Lark, followed by A Violent Lit. Oh, I can't say it. Oh my gosh. A Violent Yet Flammable
Hard.
World.
It's a tongue twister.
It's tough. I don't know why.
A violent yet flammable world.
Here's Au revoir, Simone on Carefully Curated.